What's going on, my friends? I figured I'd stop by and just do a quick little recording here, a state of the wind, if you will, just to figure out a little bit about what's going to be going on next with the channel. So I'm not doing anything differently here as far as episode reviews. I'm not getting rid of anything. I'm still going to be covering all the new Star Trek news, the new shows, the new episodes, the new movies, all that stuff when it comes out. And I'm still going to be doing things like Quantum Leap or any other maybe potentially sci-fi shows that come out that kind of pique my interest. But there's also some other things I want to start doing, and part of that I want to involve people that are watching the channel. I want to figure out some things that others actually want to see. So I've been watching a lot of YouTube in my entire life, and especially recently, I've been seeing a lot of people covering things like older shows, but it's their first time watching it. And I've kind of wanted to do something like that myself to not really do a reaction, but to do an episode review like my normal reviews after I've watched something I haven't seen before. But unfortunately, a lot of the shows that I would normally do this for, I've already seen. So, for instance, I've seen all of Star Trek, obviously. I've seen a lot of the other adjacent sci fi shows. I've seen like Firefly, Andromeda, Babylon 5 for the first time a couple of years ago, Stargate, all of those shows. Farscape, just most of the stuff people would normally have in this genre, I've already seen. So I can't really, in good conscience, do something like that because I've already seen the stuff. So is there anything else that people would suggest in this similar vein that I could start kind of doing little here and there reactions to? It's probably not going to be a definitive every single week I'll have an episode up, but something I could come back to. Another one of the things I'm kind of debating right now is doing similar to how I was doing the theorizing for episodes as they're coming out for the state of that season. I'm thinking of going back and doing what if type scenarios for older shows that have already come out. So, for instance, I already have one I'm working on for Voyager, and I also have one I'm working on for DS9. I want to address similar things to what could have happened if something in the show went differently, or something that could have been structured differently within that show, which would have led to potentially, in my opinion, at least an interesting outcome, if not a better one than what we saw. So I'm going to go ahead and spoil one of those right now. I'm going to say how I would have done the final season of Voyager, and I'm also going to do a video on DS9, how I would have handled the Dax situation transitioning from season 6 to 7, assuming we had to lose Jadzia Dax, what I would have done in that situation, which would have been potentially different from the course of action they actually followed. So those are things that I'll be working on and probably won't be coming out right away, but I do want to address those over the long term, and I want to do other things like that. But this is where I'm kind of calling into action anyone who might actually be interested in this channel and what I have to say. In the comments below of this video specifically, what are some things you would like to see me address? What are things you would like to see me cover? Is there anything specifically, either another show, another movie that you might have interest in that I haven't even touched upon yet? Is there any what if possibility for Star Trek, or questions about a show, or anything that you would want me to address? Maybe a specific season, a specific character. I don't know, just any thoughts that you might have that you might want to see me put into action on this channel. Mainly because I'm trying to do things that are not 100% geared towards this week and this week only. So if I do an episode review of Star Trek Picard, people want to see that for the week of that episode, maybe a couple of weeks after if they're watching it in a binge. But then for the most part, that dies out after a couple of weeks, especially after the show ends. There will obviously always be people coming back to the shows, although the first couple of seasons of Picard, I don't know how frequently people are going to be revisiting those. But for hardcore Star Trek fans, the older stuff, if I start talking about that, that's going to be a pretty evergreen situation on YouTube. So I'm going to branch out into some non-time sensitive issues. I'm going to do obviously all my normal stuff, but in the meantime, anything that you would like to add or anything suggestion-wise you have, put that in the comments below. Are there any sci-fi shows that you think specifically could use more covering? There's some things that I've seen a little bit of, but I haven't really watched through all of it. So, for instance, Space 1999. I'm thinking about maybe watching an episode and just leaving my thoughts on that. I've seen a little bit. I've seen the pilot a lot of times, but I haven't watched through that entire show. A lot of the older sci-fi shows like that, but more modern stuff, for the most part, I have watched through, or I'm at least pretty consistently aware of what happened in it. Is there anything else that you could think of? Obviously, I've already asked this 342 times in this video so far, so pardon me, I'm going to ask it again, but anything you could think of that you would like me to cover, and it doesn't necessarily have to even be 100% geared towards something similar to Star Trek or something similar to sci-fi. Obviously, there's going to be things I have no interest in, so I don't want to go out there and cover like a reality dating show or anything like that. But there's other things that I watch, some older cartoons I've been thinking about covering, but some of these things I just don't know what sort of stuff I should talk about. So I was a big Darkwing Duck fan. I've been wanting to touch on the show Mighty Max because it seems like absolutely nobody remembers that, and I can't even find much information about it online. Also, something like Pirates of Darkwater. I don't know. These aren't things that I really have much to say, but I feel like there's a void out there for somebody talking about them in general. And obviously, there's so much new Star Trek coming out, so much old Star Trek coming out, that there's always going to be something to talk about there. I'm just trying to look for something to fill in the gaps or fill in the information that people watching this actually want to see. I also like things like fantasy, and obviously there's other random shows like Barry, so anything you could think of that you might want to help out or just throw a comment below, maybe I'll take some of those ideas and run with them. And if you have anything that you want to point out that I could do better, put all that stuff below. This is basically a state of the channel type video, and I just want to see if there's any suggestions any of you might have. Positive, negative, change this, do that, whatever. Maybe I'll even address some comments in the future if you have anything specifically handy that you'd like to say, or I'm going to call it a night there. Obviously do all those fancy YouTube things. I don't know how much traction a video like this is going to get because it doesn't specifically tie into any genre or subject, so it's probably just going to be watched by a few of the die-hard subscribers. So leave me all your thoughts below, and until next time, take care.